Hello everybody, I'm Rudrani and welcome to Zoom Speak Easy. My guest today is an extremely talented director. She's a woman who's never afraid to speak her mind, has been fighting in her own ways to create content that is absolutely fantastic and also in a lot of ways kind of contributes to society in small little ways. Of course, I'm talking about the very talented Kiran Rao. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you for having me.
Before I go
Very
there,
kind of you.
of course,
It's always embarrassing to hear yourself introduced. Do you agree?
it is a little, but
Yeah.
I feel like that is why what I say is pretty much what I really feel about you.
Right.
You know?
It's not like bio bullet points.
No.
Yeah, that was
which
really
is,
nice.
Which is when I think of you, I think of that.
That's really nice.
Why is it that it takes Kiran Rao more than 12 years to make and direct another film?
You know, I've been asked this question and I've really put really thought about it because, when you look back at your life, you're like, yeah, there are milestones to mark the passing of a decade. But really, did it take so long? We all look at time that's gone by and we're like, has 10, 12 years really passed? Honestly. Well, I have to say that the intervening, 13 years between Dhobi Ghat and now have been extremely fulfilling and very full, honestly, very active.
Sure.
I had a baby after trying for very long. So the first couple of years, even though I was kind of writing a little bit, were primarily Azad years, like till he was school going, I was kind of almost entirely doing mummy stuff. But after that, I kind of dove into my ideas. I was really trying very hard to write a script that I wanted to make, a series idea. I had a whole bunch of ideas which I still have.
Sure.
And I've been working at them relentlessly, but like many writers and I'm not really a writer, I'm a director, but when you sit down to write, you'll find a lot of people tell you how lonely it is and how difficult it is to kind of get to the place that you feel is the right point from which to launch your next project. I never got there, honestly. I was busy, I was producing, we made a whole bunch of movies, but I really wanted to direct, honestly. And so it was not for want of trying. I never planned it. And when this came along in 2018, which was like 7 years after Dhobi Ghat, I was like, this is it. I want to do this as my second film. It's been 6 years since 2018.
Yeah.
So actually time does fly, but we've been on this Laapata journey for a while. And yeah, I'm really excited now that I have something. It kind of makes up, hopefully it'll make up for my absence, for being Laapata.
For being Laapata.
Yeah.
But when I asked that question, in no way was I referring to the fact that, or kaam kahan hai? I know you've been very busy, you've been producing,
Yeah.
you're also among the very few people who are genuinely scouting for talent in different ways. And even if you're associated or not associated, I'm aware of that. And I know that you've been busy. It's way more than that. But I think it was a complaint because I think it was so phenomenal to see the kind of debut that you had. With the kind of story that you were saying, I think we missed that. I did.
That's really, really nice to hear.
And you know that I have seen the film. And which is why I say we have to have more of Kiran Rao's film.
Oh, that's lovely.
Hindi film industry needs more of you. But on that note, an observation again, even if it's the second film, you choose to go for stories that are more rooted in our culture, in our traditions, in the way we look at our society. It is extremely important for you, whether it was Dhobi Ghat, and of course, Laapataa Ladies has beautifully interwoven all of that, staying true to the milieu that you are creating there and all of that. Why is that so important for you? Because I know you, sometimes more glamorous stories gets you more eyeballs, right? But you choose to stick to this path.
Yeah, I guess every artist has their personality, their pet, sort of ideas and way of working. And I've always been interested in our society. I'm interested in the world, really, and how we are, what makes human beings tick and what makes societies the way they are. And I think every artist wants really to be a reflection and in some way like a medium to understand the society that we live in. At least I do. So it was, I mean, these stories that are rooted, stories that are authentic, interest me. It was very new for me actually making a film in a village. I've never lived in a village myself, and this is set 20 years ago, but we all have our own experiences of living in or being in rural India. And the idea of this whole story that was set in a particular time in a fictitious state also became a universal story for me. It's really a story not necessarily only for India, only for rural Indian women or anything like that. I think it's very contemporary and can, translate actually into any milieu or any, any conversation that that people have, because you realize that when you're making stories is that at the end of the day it's strange how similar we all are across time. Human beings haven't changed all that much, and certainly women's stories haven't changed as much as they ought to have. And that interests me, that to kind of find characters, to find situations that are both very particular and very rooted in some way, but also very global or very familiar to everyone.
I read somewhere about how you really fought for not having Amir in the film. But you've always been this person who has been trying to build her identity. And I'm saying trying is, of course, you've already built it. I'm saying, but you continue to do so. Staying clear of your association with Amir. And I know you're very, very proud, you're great friends and all of that. That's not what I mean. I feel like, but I know it's important for you because often you're like, people assume that it's being done by Amir and, you're pulling in all the ropes by there, but that's not the story is what I know as well. That's important for you, isn't it? You want the story to shine more, and which is why sometimes I think you have categorically shied away from taking superstars.
The first part, though, I want to correct. I didn't have to fight to not have Amir. Yeah, no, but a lot of people, because it's kind of been represented in the way that like Amir and I kind of had a tug of war about it. Honestly, he really wanted to play the role and his audition was excellent. But we both arrived at the fact that, there's star baggage that we didn't really want on the film. And, you've seen the film. And there's something delicious about not knowing what this character is going to do next. And with Amir, it wasn't going to do that. Like you kind of expect that he's going to do something or either be a terrible villain or a great hero or something. So it wasn't, we didn't have as much of a tug of war, but you're absolutely right in that I have actively tried to kind of have my own identity. I suppose it's not so much actively, but I always have been a pretty, independent personality, and I suppose it's something that happens to any person when they get married, especially women. When we get married, we kind of get subsumed into this sort of family, and our identities and our interests and everything sort of become very closely tied with family. And that was, of course, the case for me in a sense, but it was doubly the case because I was married to someone who was a, very loved, big film star. So I'm routinely, even now at airports or anywhere else, you're Amir Khan's wife, right? So they're not even, maybe don't even know my name, but the association is directly with Amir, and I've kind of become accustomed to that, though now I have to say ex-wife.
Yeah.
So, no, but it doesn't bother me, honestly, because I think personally I've always had my own interests, my own friends, my own life as well, which I'm, which I actually actively kind of worked at having. And I think it's really important for anyone who's in a marriage to also have their own space and identity. So yeah, it's within, the good thing for me has been like in partnering with Amir on Amir Khan Productions has always in some way been also easy, because he is very welcoming of opinion. He really looks at me as a creative partner. So in that sense, it was very heartening, even though everybody just kind of sees me as the wife or now ex-wife. you know.
Not everybody.
Not everybody, thank you. But yeah, if I didn't have a strong enough, I suppose, sense of self, I might have been, you know, depressed by being reduced
It can
to
be,
just a
right?
wife. But yeah, I kind of like, I have quite a laugh about it, honestly.
But very well explained. But what is interesting for me is what you said, that like you should talk to him instead of telling me, which is linked to our question right now, right? And it is sometimes, this is something that has happened often to you, right? Like, while of course they'll say, oh, congratulations, it's a good thing, but anything associated, you're pulled in and you're almost made to say, like, you also have to answer, but why, right? How do you feel about it today? I mean, I know you have years of experience, patience, and stuff, but I think when I heard that statement, I felt like this is so true.
You know, I suppose anyone who's kind of married to a star will tell you that there's all this sort of, all the chatter around their spouse affects them.
Yeah.
You know, whether they like it or not, you get drawn into it. It happens even to non-stars. When something happens to your spouse, your husband or your wife, you're bound to feel, you know, you feel you want to defend them, or you want to kind of protect them. And honestly, it's taken me years of sort of being able to dissociate a little bit from the, you know, the kind of, can be quite vitriolic and can be quite hard, the social media space. And, you know, there are straightforward attacks on stars for various reasons at various times, and you get affected by it for sure. But luckily for me, honestly, there's a great sense of, I don't know, assurance and calm that Amir is, you know, ethically and morally, completely anything that he does is above board, and has always been that kind of person. So, you know, it's easy then to kind of not be deeply affected, because when you feel guilty about something, then you're more affected. But here, honestly, I'm like, you know, this is not something that I need to worry about when it comes to Amir. But, and over time, I've learned to be able to say that, look, I'm not him. I'm not, I have my own identity, and really, honestly, he can fight his own battles adequately. He's extremely articulate and very clear about, and like I said, he's the one person I know who will stand up and accept if he said something that he feels needs to be apologized for, or done something like that. So, it's I feel like we're at a place in our relationship as well where we are very comfortable knowing that the other person, what the other person is doing is always going to be morally defensible.
Yeah.
And we kind of like, we both are on the same side on many things. So it's not, it feels, there's a sense of relief almost. So yeah, so saying he can take care of himself, and that if anyone has any beef with him, they should take it up with him is I think a natural thing.
You know, morally defensible is something that appropriately describes a lot that you've done in your life, because you truly walk the talk. Your films have reflected it. Look at Laapataa Ladies and the kind of subjects that you're trying to very subtly, through humor in places, try to also tell them. You know, we're at a time where we've seen with filmmakers who just want to tell stories and want people to enjoy them with honesty, are still not being able to do so because of the social media trolling. See what happened to Lal Singh. It came out on OTT and everybody loved it, right? And stuff. But I know how much a filmmaker like Amir or you and they put in. There is a certain expectation that you hope that see it for what it is. That impacts you. Does it impact you as well? And the second part of the question is that I know you've been very, very supportive. Amir himself, when he, off the record, when he comes to chat with us, spoken about how happy and good space he's in right now. But when he puts in everything, it did affect him. As a creative person, if you pushes it to that level, how do you deal with that? Because you've stood by him, and I know it can happen to anyone who's as sensitive as you are as well.
Absolutely. No, and honestly, most people who are working in the commercial film industry are so exposed in that sense. I mean, they're putting everything out there when they do something. It's not just their reputation, and there's so many people involved, so much money involved, years of effort, and of course reputation and your star value, etc. All of that, and it's um, it's really disheartening when you put in all the effort and it doesn't work, which happened with Lal Singh, and it definitely affected Amir quite deeply. It affected all of us because it was a project that had seen so many. It had done the COVID roller coaster, and and it had been a dream project for Amir. He's been working on getting the rights for the script for like a decade before we made it. So it was disappointing. I'm really happy that people are responding well on social media, because I do feel like the film didn't get as much of a chance, but it didn't work. I mean, we do have to accept the fact that the audiences didn't like it or didn't want to see it. It's a risk we take, and honestly, I think that's one of the reasons we have formulaic films, like films that people just follow the formula of action films are working, let's only do action, or whatever, crime, thriller, romantic comedy, whatever it is, it just becomes a safety sort of net for people who don't want to take that risk of failing. And no other art form has that kind of humongous risk, when you're, even a contemporary artist who work sometimes with big sculpture or something that involves a lot of people, it's still not a risk, because no one's paying ticket money to, sort of make your project a flop or a hit, right? So we have signed up for this, and honestly, you kind of have to learn to take it as a learning experience, and as in some way, better your craft and better your storytelling, and understand perhaps how the world has changed, or what stories would, how they could be told differently. I feel like as filmmakers, we need to keep iterating and being creative, because audiences are changing, audiences are watching all kinds of new content all the time, and we need to learn and keep sort of adapting to the changing environment, I think.
And I think very well put again, and I'm sure that this has helped him also when he was going through that dark phase. I feel that there is hope. We have to continue making stories, because when you think like, oh, I don't want to make stories anymore, I thought like, how much could that person have been affected to say that on don't make like the one thing that you want to do.
Yeah, he was very affected, but someone like Amir is such a creative animal. Like, he's a very at the heart, he's a very creative person, and exceedingly good at what he does, because he, from a very young age, has heard stories to the point that I feel it's in his DNA. Like, if you actually did a DNA test, you'd find a gene for storytelling that's in Amir. So you couldn't take that away from him. And honestly, I suppose he needed, after, getting, having a big, like box office disaster, to take that time off to recalibrate and see where he'd gone wrong. And he's one of those few people also I know that won't go out being bitter, but will be like, okay, I'll step away first and reassess and look at, what I'm doing wrong, or, what I really want to be doing next. And this renewed Amir is now producing 6 films after saying he's not doing anything. So clearly the time off was useful and, kind of productive.
You so aptly put it, but I see that fearlessness in you, and I feel like you're not thinking about कि मुझे इतना करोड़ बनाना है. I know you've said that I don't have that pressure to do it as well, but you have all the means if you wanted to. You, like I said, you can cast the biggest of stars if you want to. You have access to them, but I see what you choose to do. Whether it's Dhobigat, even here with the casting, you want to take new people. You have always pushed towards taking more fresher talent, even in production.
Yeah.
And on screen, of course, which is a big deal, right? Like, this is my way of telling. This is your way of telling stories, Kiran. And which I find is fascinating, because I think you've also been someone who didn't have someone here, and you also have hustled, which people assume that you have not, but I know you have. Tell me, is that the reason why, one of the reasons also, and of course the fact that the story for you will always be bigger than anything else.
The story for me is the starting and ending point of everything, and I think every project has its demands. A project of a certain scale perhaps would demand having a star in it, and the star would probably be able to carry off things like cars flying in the air or whatever, action drama, in a way that perhaps fresh talent would not be able to. So I do think that the project usually is the kind of lodestar, the kind of film it is should be your guiding compass in a sense, because, and that's actually something I learned a lot from Amir again, who felt like, it's not like you cannot tell stories that are unusual or set in a village, or a period film like Lagan, or a, Peoply Live in a rural drama comedy. It's not like you cannot, but you have to know the restraints, the constraints within which you're operating. Because if you're telling a story that's unusual, like Dhobi Ghat, you can make it, but make it on a small enough budget that nobody loses money. So Amir's operating principle always is that nobody should lose money.
Correct.
Ideally, like that should be the way you plan a project. So if you do that, I think you can make what you set out to make and be true to what that project needs. And I felt like this project really needed, fresh faces, people that could take you on this journey and, end up you discovering something as a result, which I feel stars often, tend to have the baggage associated with their stardom and can't do as easily. So I think I think it's important both to Amir and to me that we kind of make stuff that we're excited about to begin with. Like, the story is the main thing. And once you have a story that you feel is worth telling, you tell it in the best, most honest way, but within, within a viable, financially viable model.
It's the way you have showed it, even I think with you, with Azad and things like that, right? The way it's been brought up, the kind of respect and the kind of, the importance to give to cultures, the importance of way you're treating people, and also maintaining privacy at the same time. Tell me how that has been, because I feel like you've done that. There is enough that you want to, and he's not among one of those star kids who's out there. But I feel like there is enough that if you want him to come and do, like, be a part of festival, you'll not stop people from taking them at the same time again. How have you managed to do that so effortlessly is what I want to ask.
Well, one was, of course, that I myself only go to places that I really want to go to. I don't feel under pressure to attend everything or, show my face kind of thing everywhere. I have lots of great friends in the industry, so it's not like I don't go out, and I enjoy meeting them and going to events myself. But I've always been conscious that Azad, we tend to forget because we're in social media that they would like to have their own identity that they build as children, which we don't perhaps allow them because they're in the glare of the flashes all the time. So, where we can't avoid it, he comes along, and where he wants to come along, he comes along. So there are places that, for instance, it's a musical and he would like to watch it, or a film that he'd like to watch. It's always been his choice. I can't avoid, whatever, perhaps at the airport or outside a restaurant or something, and he's totally cool with that, because I think when he was little, he used to be like very confused about it because he'd never seen his father's films. And when you visit us, you don't feel like we're a film family, honestly, because we have no pictures of ourselves anywhere, no it's like the most normal sort of middle-class-ish household. So, obviously we are highly privileged, and I don't want to kind of pretend like I'm some... But honestly, we live fairly simple lives. So I think Azad's been affected by that, like the fact that we are pretty regular people, and I certainly have not changed my life largely since I married Amir. Barring the few privileges and, luxuries that I have thanks to, having married Amir, I have the same friends, I go to the same restaurants, I have the same, kind of backpacking holidays. I haven't changed very much, honestly. And Azad is, I suppose, a result of that. He's very down to earth, and yeah, he's a very independent kid in his own right, and I'd like him to have the freedom to be the best person he can be the, you know, be azad to be himself.
How lovely.
Yeah,
I
so,
love that.
So yeah, so he's we'll see. He's going to do what he wants to do and be who he wants to be.
My takeaway from Laapataa Ladies is I feel like it's an ode to sisterhood in its own way. I know I know that's not the major themes. There are a lot of things that you do. I feel like, and also it's
Very well put.
you know, it's an ode to sisterhood, and for me it's also about how in a lot of sectors, that is why you said it can be universally applied anywhere, is that how women are often not credited, you know, often ignored, often silenced, often in the ghungat, they're existing, but then everything in your life is working fine, but then you're missing the most important part and forgetting to give. I feel that also is, of course, Laapataa Ladies are, for me, it is an inference.
Yeah. Yeah, the ghungat was just a device, you know, to say that, you know, we don't often have possibly the opportunity, yeah, to look for ourselves or to be ourselves, you know.
Thank you. And like I said, Kiran, you have to promise me that we will see more of Kiran Rao films.
Oh, yes, please, inshallah. I really hope to be doing a lot more work. Yeah.
But thank you so much, and it's been lovely chatting with you.
Thank you. Me too. Enjoyed it.